we'll just go ahead. So I'm so glad you're here. I get to introduce you to Micki Meyer. I just have to say that. She has, so just let me know how many people have an echo and then I'll ignore it. None of you, I'm the only one. Well, then that's okay. I think I can deal with that. She came to Rollins 15 years ago, and not long after, I must have been doing Facebook then, because not long after that, I began to hear her name, see her name, and see her pictures, because we have, it turns out we now have 97 mutual friends. And, you know, the only people I have be my friends on Facebook are the ones that I really care about. And so that was really nice when we became friends. But I have to tell you, she has 3,177 friends on Facebook today. So she is one of the connectors in Central Florida. And if you haven't known her before now, you know, she's really glad that she gets to connect with you. So she posts usually on Facebook. I haven't spent much time there lately, but when I go on, she has pictures of her adorable son who has eyes that are just as clear and bright and curious as hers are. So that's a delight. Or the other major category is she's giving applause for somebody else. She is recognizing something, some wonderful accomplishment or some great delight that somebody else has had. So you already know you want her to be your friend, right? You know, she's just a positive person, and yet she's got this impossible job. She is the, and I always have to look and read, she's the Assistant Vice President for Student Affairs and Community, is it community engagement or community? Community, okay, so
community.
Imagine what all that includes. And then for me, the very best part is, you know, when there's an endowed professorship, somebody has given a lot of money, especially at Rollins, a lot of money to have a named professorship. And the person who gives it gets to choose what position is going to have that name. And in this case, she is the John Lord, da, 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 da. And John, I was lucky enough to know John when I was very young, and my husband came to, the first husband came to Rollins as Dean of Students, and John Lord was one of the students that he and I admired the very most. So it's sort of, now she's like family, we've all come together. But she has a lot to tell you. I'm thinking you're really curious about Rollins and what is going on and how is Rollins different, for example, from UCF, and why are people willing to spend that much money when they could go to a state school? And by the time this hour is over, you will wish you had a kid you could send to Rollins, or you would want to go to Rollins as an undergrad. So I'll be quiet. Welcome, Micki. And I've got questions to ask you, but they would come first. And I think you have some things to tell us and maybe something to show us before we get to that.
Yes. Thank you, my amazing friend, Anne. Can everybody hear me okay? Awesome. What I'm going to ask, if you all wouldn't mind, is muting yourself. So putting your mute button on right now, that is on the bottom screen all the way to the left. So I want to make sure that everybody can hear me okay. And first of all, what a cool group of people. I'm jealous. I want to hang out with you all every Friday night and have drinks and get to learn and experience neat things. So Anne, thank you for introducing me. And I feel the same way about you. I'm so lucky that we're connected. And every time I see you, I feel like I walk away enriched and brighter. And Diana, my new friend, I'm so happy to see you. We got to spend some time today on technology, and oh, can you all hear me? Somebody muted me. Who was that? Is that you, Mr. Russell? Did you mute me? Just kidding. So first thing I want to ask, I'm going to ask you all a bunch of questions. I hope that's okay, because I know as members of the U Club, you're passionate about colleges and universities. Many of you went to colleges and university. And I have a feeling that in particular, as part of the Winter Park University Club, some of you might be connected or have an affinity for Rollins, the college in your backyard. So the first thing I want to ask is this. Are any of you Rollins graduates or former professors at Rollins? Can I see your hands? Well, hello, family. Good to see you. So, Marchetta, you raised your hand. Were you a former professor or student?
It's Marquita. I was a student. So is my husband and my son-in-law.
So you really are a legacy family, Marquita.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Good to see you. And of course, Anne, you are well connected to the college. And you are muted, my friend Anne.
I married it and I got a master's degree. I was the last faculty wife to get a master's degree that I paid for. And after that, I persuaded Jack Critchfield that family members should be able to go to Rollins without paying tuition.
So I've been at Rollins for 16 years, and I often say if they don't fire me before my 9-year-old is ready for college, hopefully he's going to be able to go tuition free because of you then, Anne. So thank you. So other
Micki,
folks,
we have, the University Club has 41 Rollins graduates as members.
wow. That is remarkable. And that is incredible. And you know, I'm so blessed to be a part of this institution that's been around since 1885. And I've only been a part of it for 16 years. But I'll tell you this, that place has truly transformed and changed my life. And I think that, you know, in our lives, we have these opportunities. You know, the two most important days on this earth are the day we're born and the day we figure out why. And I was very lucky that in 2005, I was recruited to oversee our community engagement efforts at Rollins. I am originally an upstate New York girl. I'm from Buffalo. I don't know if we have any Buffalo people. Yes, you're clapping. Are you from Buffalo? Tell me, Susan.
Yeah, I have family members that lived in Silver Creek and Orchard Park.
So I went to Fredonia. So you know where that is, based in Silver Creek. We drive right through Silver Creek to get to Fredonia.
My wife's from Kenmore, and I went to UB for 8-9 years.
Oh, how cool. And so I lived half a mile from Kenmore. So I grew up in North Buffalo, right down the street from Kenmore. So that's where I'm from. I came down here before 2000, actually before September 11th in 2001. So I'm almost a 20-year Floridian, and was recruited to run a leadership development program after my graduate studies out at UCF. But I have fallen in love with this place. And so much of it is because of the people. And so much of it is because every day I get to wake up and get out of bed and work with 18 to 25-year-olds. And I got to tell you, there is nothing that keeps you vibrant and passionate and young than doing that. And doing it in the year 2020, whew, never before has my professional identity been so challenged. And honestly, my moral and ethical imperative as being an educator in our community. So I want to ask you some questions. A lot of times people say to me, well, when you go to college or when you send your child to college, what's the special sauce, Micki? What makes a college graduate happy or successful? What are those things that they might do in college and university that sets them up for success? And you might be thinking, well, we really don't know. We can speak anecdotally, but I'll tell you right now, we do know. Because in the last 5 years, many of you have heard of Gallup. They do a lot of consumerism studies. Gallup partnered with Purdue and ran the largest study of college and university graduates in the world. It was the largest database of college and university graduates in the world. And they wanted to see what type of experiences in college lead to success, but most importantly, fulfillment and happiness. They're called the Big Six. You want to hear them? Are you ready? All right, I want us to think back for those of you in university. I had at least one professor at college who made me excited about learning. My professors at college cared about me as a person. I had a mentor who encouraged me to pursue my goals and dreams. I worked on a project that took a semester or more to complete, which had also included I played on a sports team. I had an internship or a job that allowed me to apply what I was learning in the classroom. And finally, I was extremely active in extracurricular activities and organizations while I was in college. Big 6. So going back a little bit in your own reflection, could anybody here say yes to at least 3 of those questions? Raise your hand if you could say yes to at least 3. Okay, thank you. Could anybody here say yes to all 6? Okay, so let me tell you the stats. 6% of college graduates in the study had engaged in at least 3. 3% of college graduates in the study engaged in all 6. But what we're finding is those big 6 experiences are what lead to career satisfaction, fulfillment, and happiness. And guess what I get to do at Rollins? I get to ensure that 100% of our students get those 6 experiences before the time they walk across the stage. Now, isn't that cool? Like, what a cool job, right? What a cool job. So when people, when your kids, your in-laws, your grandkids, when they're thinking about college, so just if you want to cite the study, if you want to find it, it's called the Big 6. It's called What Matters Most in College. It's the Purdue Gallup study. So that's how you can find it and share that. Because you, again, as university club members, investing in thinking about higher education and the connection between town and gown. And the work that I do as an educator on college campuses and preparing the future citizenry, that's the type of stuff I'm doing every day in my work, which is pretty cool. So I want to give you a couple updates about what's happening at our beloved Rollins right now. Let's see. Can you see my screen? Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
All right, let's see.
Yes.
Okay. Why can't I do the slideshow here? All right. So, what you may or may not know is, Rollins has been ranked number one regional university in the South by U.S. News and World Report for at least 21 years now. We've been in the top 1 or 2 for the last 20 years, the top 1 the top 1 regional university in the South, give or take over the last 20 years. For the last 3 years, we've been number 1. Have been recognized for the best in undergraduate teaching, as we know that faculty and the professoriate, they're at Rollins because they love students and they love to teach. Other recognitions this year from U.S. News and World Report include a Best Value Institution, an institution focused on innovation, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And we continue to be recognized for our undergraduate business major. But what's really important for people that look at a traditional liberal arts college that has a business major is this. The way in which we deliver the curriculum in business, which is AACSB accredited, that's the gold standard for accreditation in business, is also done with a specific focus on the liberal arts and liberal learning. So it's not just about producing students who are going to be good business leaders. It's good students who can think about the totality of their education and also be able to apply that to business. A little bit about our student enrollment. So right now we have a little over 2,000 students in our College of Liberal Arts. That's our undergraduate majors at Rollins. We have 503 first-year students, which is pretty incredible given the pandemic. And we'll talk a little bit about COVID and what COVID has done on our campus. 83 transfer students, and that number continues to increase every year. And we are seeing increased enrollments with Crummer and Holt. especially now with our pandemic and our Crummer Graduate School of Business. So a little bit about the profile of our first year class. We have 10 Alphond recipients. You know that name Alphond because of Ted and Barbara Alphond, who've also named the Alphond Inn Hotel. And these are full scholarships for students who are the top academically talented students across the country and some around the world. And the proceeds from the Alphond Inn fund those full ride scholarships and add to the endowment. We every year have one Boys and Girls Club scholar, so we have a generous gift from Tupperware that funds our Boys and Girls Scholar. We have 42 honor students. We have 25 Pell eligible students. So something to understand, when people think about Rollins, they may think, oh, this serves the wealthiest students in our community. 25% of our students are Pell eligible, which means that they fall at or below the poverty line. 25% of our students. We also have 94% of our students in the undergraduate receiving some sort of financial aid. 14% first gen from 372 high schools and 70 colleges. About half, a little more women than men, but not many more women than men. And just so you all know, 25% of those students are engaging virtually this fall. So we've seen across the country what's been happening with COVID. We've got some institutions that were fully virtual, some were hybrid, some were fully in person. We gave students the option to stay home and to engage virtually or to come to campus. The majority of students have at least 2 courses that are virtual this semester. So even if they're a student not at home living in the residence halls, they may be living in the residence halls, taking 2 classes in person and 2 classes virtually. So where do our students come from? This might be a surprise as well. Guess where many students are looking at Rollins? They're from Florida. And we're seeing that trend. We knew this has been coming over the last 10 years. The growing number of students attending and matriculating into colleges and university are coming from 3 places: Florida, Texas, and California. And that's where we're seeing increase in population. There's been a huge drop off and decrease in population in the Northeast, which obviously has made a huge impact on the liberal arts colleges that are up in the Northeast and the Midwest. But we do still get students from all across the country. These are the top states outside of Florida where students are engaging in the institution. And this year, obviously, in the last couple years, we have seen a decrease in our international students. This year, obviously, more than ever because of COVID. But this is where we're seeing students come to us from: the DR, the UK, Canada, Guatemala, and Germany. So I wanted to quickly talk a little bit about Rollins 2020. So this has been an incredible year. And for those who have been on campus, you know, we've been engaged in a number of capital projects. There's 2 in particular that I've been very involved in. One is the background that you see behind me. For those who know the college campus, I am sitting, well, virtually sitting in the old Mills Memorial Building that used to be the library. And if you can see behind me, there's a big Google step. I'm in front of the design lab that will talk a little bit about that. So Kathleen W. Rollins Hall is the new name of the old Mills Memorial Building. And this has really been set up to serve as our mission central and our mission center. So when Peg and Grant Cornwell came to the institution 5 years ago, they started asking some pretty deep questions around our mission and our market. And what does it mean to educate students in the 21st century? What are the knowledge, skills, and values that when students cross our stage, they're prepared to engage philanthropically, they're prepared to engage in the workforce, and they're prepared to be, like many of you on this call, who are deeply connected and committed to their communities. And we had 13 groups that said, well, these are the things that we think are most important. We think students need to be able to put their education to work in the world. They need to be able to translate what they're learning in the classroom and how to apply it outside. We need them to be ethical, moral, and engaged citizens, understanding the complex ecosystem of social issues and problems. We need them to be able to understand a global and ever-fluid, changing world around diversity and inclusion. We want them to be well-traveled in understanding our global world. We want them to think about and utilize mentoring as they create their path. So if you come to campus, This building really houses what we think is the heart and soul of the college education at Rollins. We opened the building February 28th, 2020, and guess what we did 2 weeks later? We closed it right down for COVID. This was my project for 3 years. It was amazing. It's an amazing, vibrant, incredible community-centered space that we've got teaching labs, we've got faculty and staff and students all working together, working on problems. We have our community engagement and civic engagement and voting efforts. It is a really incredible space. For those of you who may live on Lake Virginia, you probably have seen the Lakeside Neighborhood Residential Complex, which consists of Bornstein, McCain, and Seymour Halls. This is our new residence hall on campus that has 500 beds, 124 units. They're apartment style, so every student gets their own private bedroom. They have a shared community kitchen, and they have their own private bathroom. This is the type of living that young people are looking at when they come to colleges and universities. Many of them did not grow up having brothers and sisters in their bedroom, and they're used to having their own bedroom. And so one of the things that was important for us is how do we make sure that students stay residential on our campus, learning with us as long as possible through their junior year. So these additional beds have allowed students to stay on our campus and us to engage them in really thoughtful and meaningful ways on the campus. And what we see in the data is students that stay residential with us for at least 3 years in higher ed will persist and retain at a higher rate and get involved more deeply on the college campus. A couple more slides, and then I want to open this up to conversation. So Anne and I were talking a little bit about this presentation before I gave it, and she's like, always like, Micki, what's happening at Rollins? What's happening? What are the trends? What are you seeing? And I think the one exciting thing to work on a college campus, and this is my 22nd year working in higher ed, everything that's happening in our global and our national community is happening on a college campus, almost on steroids. So the neat thing is we get to deal with 18 to 22-year-olds that are going away for the first time. They're flexing their muscles, they're testing the boundaries, they're engaging in risk, and they're being deeply impacted what's happening in the world. And so for us, if you think about what have been those things in 2020 that have been deeply impacting all of you in our community and our world, well, we know there's been incredible political unrest, no matter where you sit, no matter where your political ideology is. We've seen political unrest. We've seen a commitment to racial justice. We've also seen racial inequity happening in our communities and young people stepping up and saying, I don't feel good about this, and I've had enough. We see tremendous impacts on the environment and environmental crisis around natural disasters out west. And even if you think about this hurricane season, we've seen economic and health impacts around COVID, economic around employment and the economy. And the biggest thing to understand that we're seeing is we're preparing for the next pandemic, which we know is going to be a crisis of mental health with our young people. So what fun. You want to be in my seat? It has been quite the interesting, amazing year. But again, it goes back to how do we hold students and how do we make sure that young people have the support they need to thrive and to be prepared to engage in the world after college. So if you came to campus and if you interviewed students and said, what are you working on? What are you doing? These are some things that you would hear. A lot of students very active in political and voting. The college consistently has the highest rates of voting on college campuses in the country. So we run a study that's been done in partnership with Tufts. And what happens is Tufts takes the Board of Election information with the clearinghouse information, which is the name of every student. They connect and compare what students registered have voted, and our students consistently wrote at the highest rates. In fact, in the last presidential election, out of all the students that were registered to vote, about 78% of our students voted, which we know is really unheard of when it looks at young people and voting. We're seeing a lot of work around racial justice and a lot of questions for students. So when students were coming in this semester, our first year students, I asked, what issues are keeping you up at night? What are some things you're worried about, you're thinking about? The top 2 things they said was this: issues around inequality and fears around inclusion, are not having inclusive spaces. So we know these are the things our young people are thinking about. They're involved in the environment. They're very, very involved in social media, and maybe just processing for all of you or for your kids or for your grandkids, you're probably seeing a huge uptick in social media. They're not on Facebook like many of us. They're on Instagram. They're on TikTok. They're using a lot of different platforms, but this is their first space of engagement. This is now their village square and how they're testing their muscles. They're putting ideas out there. And then students are super involved in mental health and well-being activities. And we're seeing an uptick of students involved in religious and spiritual life that might surprise you. So some of our most vibrant student organizations are Christian organizations, Hillel, our Jewish organizations, and our students that are engaged in interfaith and ecumenical work, even thinking about spirituality, meditation, etc. Let's go to COVID. So if you haven't been on our dashboard yet, I'm going to pop it in the chat in a minute. And just so you know, every single day at 8 a.m., you can test and you can see and you can look how the college is doing when it comes to COVID. So this is a screen grab from a while ago. This isn't today's screen grab. In fact, the state of the college right now is yellow. And I'm going to put that dashboard in there so you can see. But we've got a metrics team that meets every single morning at 8 a.m. We identify who on campus has been tested. Isolation, if you look kind of down in the middle, isolation are students who are COVID positive, and we're keeping them in an isolated space. So because of our new residence halls, we have 100 isolation beds for students who have COVID. Quarantine means they're questioning. We don't know, they've been exposed, they test negative, but we're keeping them quarantined for 10 to 14 days to make sure that they don't have COVID, or if it wasn't a false negative. And the college has done exceptionally well in managing our COVID cases. And if you come onto campus and you see our students, we have masks that are mandated. Even our student athletes are wearing masks. Students are listening, they're adhering to the policy. And when they don't, they get a talking to by me and our dean, and there's consequences for that. So what's been really great is, we were really worried. We had all these great plans, and we were very, very nervous. And we kept saying, as long as we can stay till Thanksgiving without having to close, we're going to be okay. And at any given time, there really hasn't been more than a handful of students who've been COVID positive. The way we also know, so this is really cool, we test the wastewater. There is a lab out of MIT. It's a partnership that we've developed with BioBot, and you might have saw this in the Orlando Sentinel. Our provost is a scientist. She got involved with MIT and BioBot about 18 months ago when we're doing preliminary studies around wastewater testing for opioid use. So municipalities and communities were looking at where are some hot spots around opioid use. Because it's wastewater, you can't identify which houses or people are using opioids. You can kind of look at neighborhoods and communities, and they can test for hotspots. Well, what they recognized with COVID is the same type of testing. We were able to test for COVID. So for every 4,000 samples of, fill in the blank, we're able to see if there's one COVID positive. So we're able to look at our residence halls where the wastewater moves through. We test, and if we see there's a hot spot within, say, Sutton, a residence hall, we close Sutton down. We test every single student in that building. Science is awesome. And this has been one of the ways that our testing has been really consistent. So where a lot of campuses, they're swabbing and saliva testing, PCR rapid testing, everybody, we're able to also see if we have high levels of COVID within our wastewater system. So this is a bit about where we are right now when it comes to Rollins 2020 and what we're seeing and facing and experiencing. And I now want to open it up to any conversations or questions the moderator might have, or any questions that you all might have that I may or may not be able to answer about Rollins and our students.
I have a question. You have had in the past a program where the students are allowed to do 4 weeks travel abroad during the shutdown sometime in the winter. Usually it's February. Are you still continuing that program? Because I think that has been an incredible program for the college.
Yeah, so you mean the international study
Yes.
abroad experiences? Yeah, unfortunately, right now with our insurance and getting in and out of the country, right now, no, we are not doing that.
What a shame. Do you have people in the lay community as mentors for your students as well as your professors?
In the what community? The lay community?
Yeah. Mhm.
Absolutely.
How do you get involved in that?
Come and see me.
Okay, will you put your email or phone or address or something so we can connect to you?
Yeah, I sure will. And just so you know, is it our intention to not send students abroad? No. Unfortunately, COVID gets to make those decisions for us. And as an institution of higher learning, with again with an ethical and moral obligation in this moment, to make sure we're following our rules when it comes to the State Department and our insurance and putting students in situations of risk, we're unable to support those programs right now. But make no mistake, you probably know this, close to 80% of our students travel abroad when they're at Rollins. We're one of the top 5 institutions in the country with number of students travel abroad. It is so baked into the DNA of what we do. In fact, so much of my experience at Rollins, I have been all over the world, scouting experiences, bringing students to experiences, engaging in research or on community engagement. And as soon as things become safe, our students will be engaged abroad again.
Micki, it's not just international travel. Didn't you tell any student that went home for Thanksgiving they could not come back this semester?
We did, and that was tough. We had to make that call about 2 months ago. When you run an institution during a pandemic, there's a lot of really hard decisions and calls you have to make in advance, not knowing what the state of play is going to be as you get closer. That was the right decision, just like it was the right decision to open in September. We were very nervous about making that decision to open in September. Thinking that many institutions, Notre Dame, et cetera, they were opening early August so they could end at Thanksgiving and students could go home. For us, we opened in September, given what was happening in Florida. And also with our new residence hall, we knew we'd have access to more isolation and quarantine beds as that project was finishing up. So what we had to do is this for Thanksgiving. We offered students, if students wanted to go home, that was fine. And then they finished the next 2 weeks. So we only have a week left of school. They would finish the last 2 weeks virtually, with the goal of not bringing anything back to our city of Winter Park. So when we make these decisions, it's just not about Rollins. It's about thinking about Advent Health and our doctors and nurses here in our community. It's about all of you as residents and thinking about access to health and healthcare. And we don't want people bringing things back to our community. We also, Dr. Fauci was pretty clear that college students traveling can be really complicated and problematic. So students stayed with us. We had some parents who came here and hung out with their students and ate in town. We also had last week a whole series of activities for our students. So guess who was on campus on Thanksgiving for the first time? So we had a big meal on campus with our student, not big, we had kept it clean and isolated, and we had they had to sign up for shifts, but we tried to do some fun things on campus too, because the group I'll tell you we worry most about right now, as you can imagine, they're the freshmen, the new students who are coming to Winter Park. They're coming to our campus for the first time, and some of them are not, they're living in singles, so everybody has a single. And what we found is that, students, they're lonely, especially if they're not they're not naturally inclined to engage with other students. So they were here with us. What else are you thinking? What else can I answer? And maybe I can't answer. So if I can't, I'll find out the answer.
Micki, you're in charge of partnerships connecting the students with the community and organizations in the community and individuals. Can you give us some examples of that?
Yeah, so one of the programs that I'm most excited about is we have a program called the Honor Leaders Program, where we have 50 students who all work with a nonprofit for 4 years. So they come to us and they identify what their passion area is. If they want to work in education with kids, or they want to work on homelessness or food insecurity. And they start working with that nonprofit the second week they're on campus, understanding the ecosystem of the issue in Central Florida, getting to know the professionals of the state. And as they build through that experience over their 4 years, they might start getting involved in different type of levels of work, even up to fundraising and to social media and stewardship, etc. I love that program because what other program truly prepares young people to go out and do civic work, government work in the world? So that's one that I think about a lot. The other one for those on the line, I know that there was a question about this from Myrna, is that we have a program called Career Champions, where we pair community mentors that are in careers with a student who might be interested and passionate about that type of career to form a partnership and a relationship. And so in the chat is my email. So if any of you would be interested in that and kind of, thinking about how to engage or mentor a young person in our community around a sector or a professional career, that's super helpful for us as we try to really introduce our students, not just to faculty on campus, but to community organizations, to volunteers, and to committed professionals in our community. So those are 2 programs. I can list a ton, but those are the ones that I'm super excited about.
I had a couple of questions. One, is there any cross registration between UCF and Rollins?
No, there's not. There's not. But I will tell you, we're starting to have conversations with UCF downtown and with Valencia to think about, are there ways for us to be working more closely and collaboratively together? We are setting up pipeline programs with Valencia and Seminole as well. But with UCF and Rollins, currently there's not. I would love that though. And it's something we're talking about.
And the other question I had was, you're talking about the skills that students should leave college with. And I know that there were a few things that I wish I had taken because it would have helped my career. And certainly one is public speaking and the ability to solve the kind of problems that most people run into in either business or a laboratory or anywhere. Are there any courses like that at Rollins?
So oral communication is threaded and baked into the entire general education curriculum. So meaning in many of the general education classes, students need to do public speaking and oral presentations. Our general education program is called RFLA. It's the Rollins Foundation of the Liberal Arts. And every student takes a capstone course as a junior or senior and has to do a formal presentation on something that they care about, they're passionate about, and based on their research. So that's how it's done. It's done in the curriculum. Now, for certain majors, obviously like communication, business, international relations, political science, they have additional course responsibilities and requirements around speaking and public speaking. And then in programs like the picture behind me in our design lab is a whole human-centered design thinking lab that's right in the center of campus, where students have to ideate and prototype solutions to problems. And all of that is focused with oral speaking and public speaking. So I agree with you. I was very lucky, Steve, that in my undergraduate, I was a communication major, that I was able to have access to speaking. And it's not just speaking, but it's rhetoric. It's the tools and resources around linguistics. So the science behind speaking. And it's really important and it really matters. And our faculty are very committed to making sure students are orally presenting as a part of their curriculum.
And we need a course in PowerPoint 101.
I do, right? Tonight I needed one, huh?
Mick,
I lost whoever's speaking.
Muted. Am I unmuted now? Mickey, this
Unmute.
is Alice Dixon.
how about now?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
You
But
can
that's
hear
not me.
Okay. No, that's me, Alice Dexter. I'm not on visually. You can't
Alice,
see me.
Alice,
Just
may
don't-
I pose my question to her first, please? Would
Yeah,
your students be
go ahead.
interested in an internship with the University Club? The subject came up yesterday in a meeting, just very briefly touched on, where we talked about a project that would involve a lot of extra work on the office staff. And someone mentioned maybe interns could help with it. Is this something I could contact you about if it went beyond mentioning?
Absolutely. So the biggest thing for us with an internship, and students can get academic credit to do an internship, is we would have to find an academic discipline where students are putting to work the things that they're learning on campus. So if it's business related or communication related, it would be finding that connection and then making sure they have a mentor or a supervisor that's kind of supervising them and helping them along the way. But yes, my email is in the chat. And what we can do is we've got a program on campus. It's called Handshake. And in fact, UCF, Valencia, Seminole, Stetson all use the same platform for posting internships. So you could post an internship at Rollins and you might decide and you click a box and you can have the same internship available at UCF, Stetson, Valencia, Seminole. And so we set goals and objectives with you. We understand what's the scope of work. What are the key deliverables and responsibilities? How many hours? How is it connected to what they're learning in their academic major? And we set you up with that. So yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Alice, your turn.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm a medical advocate. I own a care management company, and I am getting ready to retire. But in the scope of my work, besides medicine, I am president of the board for AGED. Are you familiar with what that acronym stands for, AGED?
I'm not. Please share.
Oh, well, I will share that with you. It is fabulous. We take care of disabled people, any age, and on my practice, I have a gerontology practice. And we deal with revamping and taking care of money for primarily seniors, but we take care of disabled people. We have my CEO, Nick Barton, is very philanthropic, and we do a lot of things that are very quiet that never make the headlines of the paper. We do things for the basketball team, the amputees, the veterans, etc. And I'm getting ready to retire. I've been a nurse in this community for a very, very long time, and it's my turn to retire this next year officially. And I would love to consider, I'll talk, if you would like to look AGED up, and I'll give you my email. I would love to maybe mentor a Rollins College student in my retirement and see if they're, somebody that might be interested in gerontology or somebody that might be interested in disability or whatever. I'd be glad to look at that.
I will tell you, Alice, when it comes to students in pre-health and the sciences and pre-medical, we're always looking for mentors. And that's a huge gap for us. So that would be absolutely welcome. And I'd be excited and honored for you to be involved.
Okay, well, can I'll give Diane my information, or I'll give you my email right now, and maybe you can email me, we can email back and forth. When I was, years ago, many, many years ago, and my children are in their 50s now, but when I was a young woman coming to this town, I was married to a physician, and we used to have a future nurses club, and I was president of that for the Orange County Medical Society. So I really love to mentor young people. I would love to do that. And next year I will have some time. So
Yeah.
can I give Diane, I'll give Diana she has my email address and my phone number. Can you get that from her and you and I can connect them?
Yeah, let's have Diane as like our conduit here. And I'm also going to put my cell phone number into the chat. And I'm
Oh,
going to
good.
put my office number into the chat too. So you'll have all of this. And I'm going to put, yeah, my office number. So if you're
Good.
on campus, you can come and visit me. That is my cell phone number.
Oh,
And
I would love to do that. I've done a lot. I've helped to start a drug abuse council in this town. I've been on a drug board. I've done things that are quiet and I've done things that don't make the entertainment line of the newspaper. But I love to mentor. I love to mentor young people. I love to do that. That's one of my passions. I really enjoyed that when I was on the medical auxiliary, and we did, the future nurses group that included X-ray techs and anybody else that was interested in anything medically. So I'd be glad to help you with that.
oh, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Oh, I'm the one getting the gifts tonight. You invited me and you're giving me all these gifts.
Well, it's a connection. It's always a good connection.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you were wonderful. Thank you. You gave a very nice talk about Rollins. I've been around here since 1963, and I remember when that was a play college.
Yeah,
Long time ago.
We stand on the shoulders of great giants, and I'm the one
Yes.
to do that every day. I get to
Yep.
be on the campus and getting to engage and stand on the shoulders of so many great men and women for decades who had a vision for this institution. And now
Yep.
a lot of it's green fields for us to run, which is really, really special and amazing. I'm so lucky. That's why I'm still here.
I think maybe I can speak again. I've been locked out in various ways, but can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, well, I realize that we're very close to our end. And I thought one more thing that I'd like for Micki to tell you. One of my dreams would be to go back and be a Rollins professor now. And one reason is you can tell from the personal relationships, it's really part of their responsibility. But another is their travel opportunities. And I wonder if Micki would take a minute to tell you what they get to do, not just travel on their own and travel for research. They get to do that, but they get to be a student of a fellow professor and go with the group. So if you just add a little bit, and then we'll thank you for your hour with us.
Thank you. So what have been some of the things I've gotten to do? Well, I was able to go to Bali and study ecotourism for 3 weeks. And we came during, we traveled with people like Hoyt Edge, who many of you might know, and Tom Cook, Barbara Carson. So these are a lot of faculty who've been in the institution for a long time. Participate in ceremonies, understand the culture and Hindu culture, and that was amazing. I was in the Galapagos Islands for 3 weeks. I stayed in Ecuador and Quito, and then had actually stayed on land in the Galapagos, which many people don't get an opportunity to do that. And scouting out nonprofits and NGOs that had hosted many of our students where we were doing continuous work. Spent a lot of time in the Bahamas and March Harbor and working with schools. In fact, one of the schools that we worked really closely with was destroyed when the hurricane hit the Bahamas in Marsh Harbor and Abaco. I've been to Germany. This time, it was probably 10 years ago, I brought students to the German Christmas markets in Germany and was able to travel around the country, engaging them in the culture and the food and understanding German Christmas markets, and also looking at service through the eyes of German as students who hit 18 will engage in volunteer in state and country volunteer compulsory service, looking at those systems and speaking with young people who dedicate a gap year of service many times before they go to university. I've been to, I mean, I've been so lucky, right? And a part of this, again, it's not just me traveling, it's me identifying opportunities for the institution to be strategic and to engage young people with NGOs and in some of the greatest social, cultural, environmental challenges that face our global world. So truly, when I say that Rollins I've been so blessed to work there, but it has truly made, it has made a change in my life that I could never even imagine. I'm so lucky to be a part of that community.
So thanks for being with us. Can I, okay. I have to tap my phone to speak. Thanks for being with us. And it's great to see you all. And I hope I'll see everybody when it's safe to see you in person. Have a great weekend. And she had a birthday on Monday, so I'll wish you a belated happy birthday and an early birthday greeting to your husband. So our family is complete.
Thank you. Thank
Have a
you.
good time. Thanks a lot.
Nice to see you all. Thank you so much.
you.
Be well. Happy holidays.